To finish this afternoon's proceedings, I'd like to invite someone to the stage who I think is known to everybody in the room, and I think known for many years of fantastic work with government and also fantastic work within our sector. So please give a big round of applause to Kate Nicholls. We do this every year. We sit here and we talk. We're very grateful for giving your time to us, and we talk about what's going on in the sector. And I remember sitting on this stage literally almost to the day a year ago, and you were, I think, fairly, I would say, angry about what happened with national insurance and in the 24 budget. How are you feeling now compared to this time last year?
One of these years, I'd really love to be coming here and talking about something positive. I'm not sure that's going to be today. Sorry, I might got reverb on my microphone, but is that just me that's hearing it? Anyway, I am apoplectic this year. I'm sort of despairing. I have had to work really hard because obviously I am no longer chief exec, I'm chair, and I have a team that I've had to sort of pick up off the floor and get back motivated again to try and get them out there and doing what they need to do. Normally after a budget, you can take a deep breath and a sigh and sort of move on. Yeah. Last year, we had to get straight back up and fight again, and the same thing has happened this year again. So once you can perhaps excuse, twice is unforgivable.
Okay, there's a full stop on the end of that sentence, I can tell.
Sorry, I've had a weekend of doing media, and I think I wind myself up, and I've had a whole day today, and I've wound myself up. So
please don't apologise. So Taxed Out, you launched it in the summer. As an observer of our sector, it feels to me like it was a brilliant campaign. I choose that word carefully. I thought it was really well executed, and you achieved like 400 plus major broadcast interviews. What have you and the team learned from the experience of going through that process, and then actually what emerged as the outcome?
That you need resilience, because yes, we launched Taxed Out in the summer, but actually the budget campaign started this time last year. Facebook has that nasty habit of giving you memories, and I just keep coming back. I feel as though I'm sort of Groundhog Day, because all of my Facebook memories are this time last year telling the Chancellor she'd got it wrong, she'd made a mistake she hadn't calculated, being in the press. And the budget campaign started this time last year to try and fix that, with them acknowledging that they had got it wrong. They hadn't fully appreciated how disproportionately hit we were going to be. It was a great campaign. It was grassroots, ground up. It was getting out to consumers, customers, chefs. It wasn't just generated, it was generated by us, but it was taken on and owned by the industry. So people were sharing their own examples of profit and loss and how little profit they were making from various dishes. Some of that came from us, but it was picked up and taken to their hearts by a lot of the industry. We had 400 MPs who were actively involved, who'd had visits, who'd had site visits, who understood it. We'd had meetings with ministers. It's kind of, there was no stone left unturned. No. There was every effort taken to be able to communicate it at every level. I suppose the lesson learned is that noise and good campaign and marketing to that audience doesn't necessarily always translate through to successful outcomes in legislation, and that even if you've had that best campaign and you think you've got people to understand it, things can go very wrong at the last minute, because because somebody else picks up on what's happening in the whole of the other bits of the economy. And I think that is what has happened here. You know, you sort of had that good campaign, you had quite a lot of traction, you had ministers in the Treasury and number 10 and number 11 agreeing, talking about what they were trying to achieve. Then you have a reshuffle where every single minister in the government, apart from the Chancellor and the Prime Minister, moved. Everybody, 83 ministers changed. I mean, that's like changing your CEOs, your regional director, your CFO, you know, everybody. And that kind of had an impact on policy. And more importantly, when they came back, they were talking about, did they need to break a manifesto pledge on income tax, or could they do something somewhere else? And what did they need to do for the whole economy? So that kind of threw everything back up in the air just in the last 6 weeks when you were putting a budget to bed. So all of those hard yards, the other lesson is you just have to keep fighting right up until the last minute, and it can go wrong.
Yeah. So what actually
what went wrong?
What did happen? I mean, it just feels really strange to me. And the big question in my mind is, like, either the Chancellor chose to ignore, because you stood up in Parliament and said,
yes,
we're making a golden era for hospitality,
yes,
I think were the words, and then she put the business rates up 110% on hotels. So, like, I don't understand that dissonance. So can you shed any light on what actually, was she being deceitful, or was she didn't know the numbers, or what was going on? You don't have to answer it.
I will answer it. I will answer it.
On the record to.
I will answer it. I genuinely think that they spectacularly messed up and did not understand the impact of their policy. There is some smoke and mirrors, and the minister below who was dealing with it, there are some super smart city boys is what I called them. They think they're really clever, and they do PPE at Oxford, and I haven't got a chip on my shoulder at all. But they're super smart, and they try to be too clever by half. And what they tried to do, the minister who was looking after it before had a very clear idea that he wanted to rebalance for the high street. He wanted to take down rates and take down tax rates for hospitality and put it up for online. And then the minister who came in wanted to do something for the whole economy. So they lost sight of the political driver, and therefore they did a settlement that did the best for everybody. And as we warned them in advance, if they tried to do that, they would do too little too late for hospitality, and they would still not satisfy those people for whom business rates are just a blip on the P&L. You know, they were trying to set business rates for Tata Steel and car factories and all of those kind of things. And I'm giving evidence to the COVID inquiry tomorrow.
Good luck, then.
And it feels the same as that. It's too thin. The jam is spread too thin. The people who need it most don't get enough and are not happy. So they did reduce our business rate tax multiplier by 5p. It could have gone down to 20. They increased it on Amazon warehouses by 2.8p. It could have gone up by 10p. So there's a tiny readjustment, but it's not enough. And it's not enough to reset the revaluations, particularly in pubs and hotels, which we warned them would go sky high because of it being based on turnover. So we warned them. They thought they'd taken account of it. We actually had phone calls from the Chancellor's office the morning of the budget as a pre-brief. You don't get the detail, but we were told we would be pleased with the business rates announcement. And then they were totally gobsmacked that immediately afterwards we were not very pleased and went out and attacked because it doesn't deliver. And I just don't think they understood. So it's all these super bright city boys who don't understand hospitality and don't understand P&Ls.
No, that's not a good place to be. Thank you. That's a good explanation. So I couldn't ask for more. Thank you. I see that UKH is now kind of looking for a delay in implementation of the revaluations. Is that right? And what are our chances of securing anything on that?
Well, we went straight in and sort of, you know, it's my job as chair to go in and talk, to try and sort of resolve some of the issues, to talk to the senior ministers to sort of explain what they've done, and it's the CEO's job to sort of give them a kicking in the media and to make sure that it's active, and we've done all of that. So Alan, our CEO, is brilliant, and he was very out there straight away with Labour MPs saying the Chancellor is lying. They're telling you bills are going down, they are not. And it's smoke and mirrors, and it's that whole complicated thing of rateable values, tax bands, and bills, and what does it mean? And you know, so I went in and I've talked to them to try and explain the scale of the problem, that a 5, 15, 30% increase in the first year is just unsustainable in a fixed cost. Nobody will report this outside of this room, will they? But I mean, they did. The minister did ask what a fixed cost was. So. So that's what I'm dealing with. But, you know, we have gone in, we are trying to give them a political solution. It is next to impossible to unpick a budget. So part of this is about what is happening next year and starting the budget campaign for next year when they look at tax rates. There are certain ways that they could make a difference now, but the only budget in my memory of working on it that has unravelled and they've unpicked is Pastygate and the Omni shambles. And this is a big thing. If you start pulling a thread on business rates, everybody else will come out of the woodwork and say they're also badly affected. So it's challenging, but we are talking to them. That's one of the solutions that you could do because the reval is so severe.
Yeah, and it's one often rather special for us as well, I guess. So, you've talked in the press about this budget creating a two-tier economy.
Yes.
Just tell us a bit about what you think a two-tier economy is. Can you define it for us, and why you think you've got to feel it?
Well, there's the favourite children and there's the forgotten, and we're kind of the left behind forgotten. So the government has an industrial strategy, a trade strategy, and an investment strategy that are the same document essentially, which is we like export companies and we like export sectors and we like high productivity sectors, and all three of those strategies are directed at that. And so any time that there is any money going spare, it is those sectors that get priority. Now, the government says they are just the priority sectors because they think they will deliver the highest productivity growth. But actually what's happening is that it's exclusionary. So when you come to the British Business Bank, which is an arm of government, they are saying, well, if you're in the 8 priority sectors, you get preferential treatment, you can get the funding. No, you lot can't. You get apprenticeship reform for the 8 industrial sectors. No, you lot can't. You get energy cost reduction for the 8 industrial sectors. You lot are going to pay for it. And ditto with some of the things. So business rates, the one bit that was supposed to be redressing the balance for the high street, the everyday economy, actually, again, it was the industrial strategy sectors that lobbied and said they also had problems with business rates. It never have been something before, but the government lent in. So I think you've just got this absolute fixation on these 8 sectors that are supposed to deliver you the highest growth, which incidentally, even with all the fixation, they're not happy with government and they're still slagging the ministers off. So it's not as if they're getting any kudos. But over here, you've got hospitality, retail, the places that most people work. 80% of employment is in the non-industrial sectors. 50% of the country is covered by the non-industrial strategy sectors. They're just ignoring us, and therefore the gap between those that are disproportionately hit by the tax and regulatory policies and those that are supported and have the backing of government to be unlocked for growth is growing ever wider, but it isn't delivering economic growth. And so the government's answer has always been, you guys in hospitality and retail will benefit when these guys grow and expand and the economy booms, you will be a beneficiary. Two-tier.
Yeah, okay, I understand, and thank you. Which seems to me feels like it's, I mean, I've read, probably one of many in the room, read the Labour Party manifesto when they came to power. And the please don't laugh. One of the things that they were talking about was big priority about higher employment, particularly amongst the young, social fairness, stronger communities, etc., etc., etc.
Yeah.
Is the Treasury not linked into those missions? Because surely hospitality is better placed to deliver those things than high tech.
This is a government in chaos. is also the other part of the story as to what has gone wrong. It took 14 years for the last government to fall apart and be chaotic.
Yep.
It's taken 14 months. So they came in with very clear missions, top of which was economic growth, 80% employment, and investment in the high street.
Yeah.
Those were their 3 top economic goals. And then they had that catastrophic budget. They introduced some of the most regressive tax policies that you can do. They hammered consumer confidence and business confidence. And it's all gone wrong for them since then, since this time last year. And then you've had leadership plots, you've had scandal after scandal hitting ministers and destabilising the government. And destabilised governments don't make good decisions. So all of those missions and long-term plans just have been ripped up, which means that you've then got, back to some of your points you were making in your introduction, you've got an interventionist civil service who will carry on as normal and do what they want to do.
Yeah.
Until somebody stops them, they'll just take it to the extreme. So you've got part of the health department slightly captured by the nanny state lobbyists around food. You've got the same in DEFRA on environmental policy, and you haven't got ministers that are checking them. And you've got clearly ministers that have come in totally inadequately prepared to run civil service departments and with no experience of doing it. And that's what we're seeing at the heart of government. So it's nice being a chair. You can be a bit more
you can just
opinionated.
It's great. Just sticking on politics. We'll get out of politics.
That's fine.
Get back into the industry in a minute. But just sticking finally with politics, just tell us a bit about your view about the political landscape right now. I mean, there's a lot of people writing right now about this government being the last chance saloon for centrist politics. And that politics is polarising so much, and we now have a unique situation in my lifetime, frankly, and I'm getting on a bit, of there being multiple parties who could win an election. How does that, first of all, any views about that would be really interesting to share with our audience, but also how does that impact UKH's role when it's working with government and trying to work out who to talk to, frankly?
Well, I think I'll answer the latter one first because it's the easy one. We have to talk to everybody.
Yeah.
We represent, everybody sees what we do at the big set piece events and in the media and the big campaigns, but we also work across government at a local, regional, devolved administration and national level. So we have to work with all political parties. Scotland and Wales are in coalition. Yeah. You've got local authorities and local mayors that are increasingly important and have a bigger sway over what's happening in the industry than the national government does. And the only way you change government policy is by talking to the opposition parties as well. So you need to have that weight in Parliament. So we always have to have a good relationship with everybody and try and influence everybody in order to put the pressure on government to do the right thing. You have to play it carefully when you're talking about government, because if you push too hard and get Reform endorsing a policy, then the Labour government will run in the opposite direction. Yeah. Slightly the same with the Tories, but less so now that they're sort of becoming a little bit more coherent. In terms of what happens with national politics, I put a little bit more confidence and faith in the British electorate than some of the opinion polls. One of the things we can see is that people just don't want politics intruding in their everyday lives all the time, and they don't want to have the chaos that you've got when we were going through Brexit and you had all of that destabilising time with May and Boris and all of the things that happened with the Tory party. People do want a bit of sense of stability. That's where it's such a wasted opportunity with Labour and its majority, because people did want to breathe a sigh of relief and just let politics go back to being boring. So I do think that you still only really win an election from the centre ground. And so that will start to come back and coalesce while you get the polarising at the extremes. That's just a howl of alienation and a sense of despair that people are lying and misleading and you're all, pox on all your houses, you're just as bad as the rest. That's what we've got coming through this budget and coming through the last one. The last one was the city and institutional investors saying, you've done something really unpredictable as a Labour Chancellor. You introduced a really regressive tax change. We can't trust you. Now it's the sort of everyday high street businesses saying, you lied to us. You misled us. Whether that's true or not, whether the politicians can finagle it, that's what people are feeling, and they feel let down.
Yeah, I think I think the population feels let down.
Yeah.
Actually, I think.
And my other sense is that this is a government running out of steam. It certainly won't be more than one term, but I suspect it won't go full term.
Yeah, I think that's undoubtedly true. So let's talk a bit about the damage to our sector from there. How kind of deep and structural do you think the damage that was done by the last budget and now by this budget is to our sector, and how long will it take us to exit that?
Well, I think it's cumulative, and it's also cumulative building on COVID. So you cannot get away from the hit that COVID had on revenues, balance sheets, cash reserves, and confidence, institutional confidence and investor confidence. There is a fine line here between talking continually about the damage done to our sector and how bad we are and how difficult it will be to get out of it, and how that becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, because why would anybody want to invest, work, live, start a business, do something, young people go and work in the sector if we are seen to be a dying sector, and effectively government is an institutional investor when it comes to the Treasury. Again, why would they give any support to our sector if we are talking about the fact that we are structurally hit and it's going to be a challenge to get out of it? Yeah. Having said that, a third of the sector is reporting that it's operating at or below break even. A quarter have no cash reserves. Yeah. And so we are going to go through structural realignment, and clearly you are going to go through some of the same issues that we saw in retail, where you are grappling with high labour costs and looking to change the model to be able to manage that cost base. Labour is getting to be an unsustainable cost burden across the sector as a whole, so it does need dealing with, and you've got some financial business models, particularly in the leased estate, that become very challenging. Yeah. So you've got to work through that before we can get back right. The positive, keep it light, be a little bit more positive. You've still got the highest household savings ratio since COVID. It's higher than COVID. So consumers have money, they don't feel confident enough to spend. Inflation will start to come down. Interest rates, the Bank of England signalled, would start to come down on the back of what was happening in the labour market and on wages. And people do have more disposable income as wages have risen. So take heart from the fact that people do want to come back out and eat and drink. It is a mature market. People do like it. They will come out, and we will be as eternally inventive and dynamic as we have always been in responding to all of those challenges about what customers are wanting and how they are coming out. But there is going to be pain to be got through, because we are going to have to increase prices in the short term.
Yeah, and I think it's also, while we're, as a segue into positivity, there's lots of businesses in this room who we know really well and are actually they're working hard, but they're very successful at the moment. Yeah. How do you see the future of the sector? What do you think the shape of the sector will be in a few years' time, particularly as those businesses come through?
I think you will get a more resilient sector in a few years' time. As I say, there is going to be pain that's gone through, but as a result of that, you will find better invested, better managed, better developed businesses, and I'm an eternal optimist. I think our sector always continually innovates and will be responsive to managing that process. It's a very tough macroeconomic and geopolitical climate, but it can't stay as bad as this forever. And we will come out the other side stronger.
Yeah, and talking about strength, I asked a few people in the industry, what do you want to ask Kate? And several people came back and said, is our voice strong enough as a sector? We still have quite a large number of trade organisations within the sector. Should there be some consolidation? Should we collaborate more? We also sit within a much wider food system.
Yes.
Which, and I know you've, and also sit side by side with the retail sector. I saw your interviews with the retail market as well. So how do you see the strategy of UKH and UKH's role within the sector going forward?
I think there's two pieces to that. There is the food supply chain, farm to fork, and we do have areas there where you've got a strong voice for farmers, food manufacturers, food retailers, and ourselves. Now, we won't always agree on everything, but when it comes to the food supply chain and the issues that are challenging us there, there's a commonality of approach, and we have regular meetings with the ministers, and we go in and talk about, food price inflation, energy, labour, those big macroeconomic issues. You then have differences of opinion underneath that. In terms of the overall voice and message, look, we have a very powerful voice at UK Hospitality. We punch above our weight. We regularly get recognised as being one of the most influential business representative organisations. It might not feel like that when you look at some of the outcomes and the impact. Could we have a better, more unified, more structured voice? Yes. And for every business that is outside of a trade association, that dilutes and diminishes what we can do, because as soon as the minister can point and say they're not part of it, particularly on the restaurant side, I think there's greater opportunity to be able to work together and to bring more people within membership. I think there's smaller organisations as well that could come into membership, but there is still too much fragmentation in the industry and too much difference of opinion, and then there's a lack of message discipline. Yeah. So, as soon as you get, even when you're talking about business rates being the big issue and this is the solution, you'll still get people going out and going, well, actually, I think it should be this or a different solution. And also, don't underestimate how much politicians and the media see the industry attacking itself. Yeah. And criticising internally, and we just need to be supportive of those people who are going out and fighting on a regular basis, and coming together as one unified voice will be much more impactful than having 5, 6, 7 different small organisations doing and saying the same thing.
Yeah, I understand. And have you anything that you would like to say to the audience, particularly on that subject about what part can everybody in this audience play in delivering success for itself?
Well, first of all, I'd like to say thank you to those people in the industry and in the room itself that have been so supportive, that have lent in, that have provided stats, that have done what we've asked, gone out and spoken to their MPs, come on the media and championed the cause, tried to get the solutions going through, and those who are members. Again, all of that helps and counts. We work. We're not for profit. We are owned by our members. We deliver for our members. So if you don't like what we're doing, join, have a voice, tell us what we need to do. If you're not a member, then sitting on the sidelines complaining that there hasn't been a good solution doesn't get anybody anywhere. Join, be part of it, because we are much stronger together. And actually, there's a load of other support services, information, advice, guidance on compliance, on employment law, on food, on allergens, on food supply chain, energy. Well, there's a whole lot of stuff that the team, I have a fantastic team, who work incredibly hard to be able to deliver across a whole range of things that lots of people don't see. So be part of it, because it will not only do all the campaigning work, but it will also provide the support to the businesses from a micro level of planning, licensing, what to do when somebody does an employment tribunal, to the behind the scenes stuff that we're working on at an investment level and a macroeconomic level.
Yeah, and on that note, I have to say I've spoken to Alan and 1 or 2 other members of your team immediately after the budget, and they were working their socks off. They absolutely were. I mean, poor Alan looked like he hadn't had any sleep for days, but it was amazing to see, and they were right on it.
Yeah, he had, just to reassure you, I had made sure he'd had his breaks, his sleeps, he'd gone to the football. It was me that covered it, but you know, David in my team has
so sharp.
David in my team has a full data set of everybody's rateable values and what it means and bills, and can manipulate all that data, but also help people with the valuation challenges and putting the appeals in. We've got a small team, but they are brilliant and they're on it, and they need and deserve the industry's support.
Genuinely impressed with them. And final question, when we sit here in 12 months' time, what do you think we'll talk about?
I would hope we would be talking about the investment that we are able to make in our young people and in providing careers and opportunities and skills, that we will have got the successful unlocking of the apprenticeship levy for our sector so that we can do that, and that we're talking about career development, and we're talking about new innovation and innovative ways of revitalising town centres, city centres and high streets. I would hope that we've got a hospitality hub that has been promised, and hospitality action zones and growth zones. And I would hope we've got politics that's boring.
Oh, yes, please. Yes, please. Thank you.
Can I have one last thing?
Of course.
I would also hope that we've got the EU exit renegotiated, and that we have got that youth mobility scheme in place.
Really good point to end on. And Kate, I'd just like to say a huge thank you for coming to see us again and spending your time, and without any rehearsal or anything, we just did it off the cuff here today. And I want to say a big thank you to you and your team for doing an excellent job over the years, and for working so hard on our behalf. So thank you, Kate, for your team.